Hello, and welcome to another episode of Moving Picture Massacre. This is episode 9 of season 2. We're going to talk about a movie that Matt found. So, what I'm going to do is step aside and let him tell us about this movie. Matt, what did we watch this week?
All right. So we watched The Day of the Triffids. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. I know they said it a bunch in the movie, and it still sounds really weird when I pronounce it out loud. But anyways, this is a movie that I came across at my little VHS spot that I go to, and I snatched it up real quick for one reason, and it's because of a little documentary about a book made by Kirk Hammett called Too Much Horror Business. And he talks about this movie and how this got him into horror movies, horror and sci-fi. So, not knowing anything about it other than Kirk Hammett likes it, I grabbed it real quick and I was like, I'm gonna watch this. So it's been months that I've had this movie, and we finally got around to watching it. And I think we're gonna have mixed feelings in here. Um, I feel like I'm on the opposite side of the fence of Ricky here, so it's gonna be a fun night when we discuss this movie. But I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna read the back of the box here. This is starring Howard Keel, and it looks like Nicole Mabry. I can't see it. They actually have a tongue going right through her name, which is really weird. But it says, "Stay inside and lock the doors, for the day of the Triffids is coming. For reasons unexplained by science, hundreds of meteorites begin to fall to Earth and blind those who witness the phenomenon. The few who retain their sight are horrified to encounter dandelion like fluff known as Triffids. These Triffids multiply and grow into man eating plants that begin to march on civilization, destroying everyone in their path. Join four survivors of the terrifying onslaught of Triffids as they search for a means of destroying the menacing plants." And it does have the cast here. So it's Howard Keel, Nicole Mowry, Janet Scott, and Claren Moore, directed by Steve Sikeli, I believe, and it's 95 minutes long, if you are wondering. Uh, Good movie, though. At least I thought so. Also, I just want to make note of the tagline at the top. It says, "Beware the Triffids that grow, no, walk, stalk, and kill." That's kind of cool. Some of these like taglines are pretty pathetic. Um, I like that one though. Tom, what do you think? Or you have anything to add? I know you looked up some facts about this movie.
I
Um,
did. I did. So, as you were saying with the last two people in the movie, Moore and Janet Scott, the interesting thing that I found out about the two of them is they actually, all of their scenes were together and they were with no one else in the movie because they were all added after the movie was over. The original runtime of the movie was only 57 minutes long. They looked at it, watched it, didn't think it was good enough, didn't think it was long enough, I guess, which seems strange to me, but they wanted to add some more. So they actually hired a different director. So all of those were actually shot and directed by a totally different person than the rest of the movie. Very much like Spookies, if you've seen that and realize how that is two totally different movies. This is kind of similar, but a little more coherent, but not a lot more because they don't interact with anyone else in the movie. The only, I would say, tie to anyone else is a radio. You hear a radio and some talking back and forth, that kind of thing, warning people from different languages, different places, that kind of thing. Both groups that you're following in the movie hear that. Well, as I said, all of their scenes were added on to the movie to bring it up to that 95-minute runtime instead of 57. I personally don't think that it added anything spectacular or any extra story. All we really got was another way to kill the Triffids by watching their scenes. And that was literally the last 5 minutes or maybe even sooner of the movie. They found out a different way to kill them than the other group that you were following earlier. So, was it worth it? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not, but that happens. Another fact that I found out was there are two different TV series based on this book because this movie was actually based on a book as well. There's two British TV series, mini series that came out, one in 1981 and then one in 2009, believe it or not. Pretty semi-recently. The 2009 actually had Eddie Izzard in it, who is a British comedian that I think is fantastic. But it was really cool to see her name in there. So I'm kind of curious to check that out, but I also don't think either of those TV series lasted very long for probably decently good reasons. The book itself had a sequel in 2001, but it has nothing to do with the movie or the TV shows. It's a complete sequel to the original book, and it's called Night of the Triffids, not Day of the Triffids. So I guess it's supposed to be 25 years later. They pick up somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. Another island that people think they're safe, and all of a sudden there's Triffids there again. So sounds very much like a zombie apocalypse kind of movie or story where, you know, you're fighting to get somewhere, you get somewhere, you think you're safe, and then, oh no, here it is again, you know, same difference. But those are some cool things that I found out in researching this movie and watching it. The movie itself, if I would just, you know, give my first reactions to it, I do think it felt a little bit long. So I probably would have taken out all of those lighthouse scenes and been completely happy with it. Overall, it was an okay movie. I've seen better from the time. I did like the monsters, I'll be honest with you. Some of their movements and stuff was kind of funny. Their sounds were funny. It sounded like someone was smoking a bong because it was just bubbling as they moved around. I thought that was fantastic. So I don't know who's running ADR for this movie, but they're probably high as all hell when they did it, which is pretty hilarious to me. I hope that's true. I'm just making up stories, but so, you know, it was an okay movie. It wasn't the greatest thing I've ever seen, that's for sure. I'm sure Kirk Hammett saw it when he was a youngin'. And, you know, we all have our in when it comes to horror movies. There's always one that'll grab you, and it may not hold up when you get older. It may sometimes, but, you know, I'm not going to dog on the guy's introduction to horror, that's for sure. Ricky, what did you think about the movie overall?
I will say, just to touch on what you ended with there, the movie that first got me into horror, it's actually my first organic childhood memory. Of course, I have some memories from before, but that's from seeing home videos and stuff like that. But the first organic memory I have as a child is from watching the movie Killer Clowns from Outer Space. That is my first organic. I was 4 years old. I'll never forget it. Vividly remember this. 4 years old, sick as all hell, laying on the couch watching TV. I come across that movie, so I thought, I'm like, I'm watching this at 4 years old. And I was, as I said, sick as hell, eating red Jello. And it decided it was time to come back up. And I took off, and I didn't make it.
Oh.
So the very light colored carpet in my hallway, my poor mother did not have very much fun cleaning that up. But yes, that's my first childhood memory, and that movie still stands up. I will watch it to this day anytime. Okay, but off my little tangent, back to this movie, which I mean, it was very hard for me to stay focused. It was pretty boring altogether. I mean, I went in with the right mindset, knowing that this movie was from 1963. So I was like, it's not going to be what we've been spoiled with. But the storyline just didn't grab me, with a meteor shower that brings in giant killer flowers that eat people and make people go blind. I just wasn't captivated by that storyline. Matt, since you seem to enjoy the movie a lot more than I did, let's bring up some stuff that you liked about the movie.
Yeah, let me I didn't give a rundown really of the movie. Basically, it starts kind of like The Walking Dead. If you think about it, like the whole time I was watching it, and I'm glad Tom brought it up. He says it's kind of like a zombie type thing, and the title alone made me think of, you know, Night of the Living Dead, Day of the Dead, and so on. And it's funny that you bring up that there's other things out there that, you know, where this continues on. So in my mind, it very much seemed like a zombie movie. It starts like Walking Dead. The main character is in the hospital. He's blind already, and he can't take his blinder off, like his wraps for his medical wraps until the next day. And he wants to because the meteor shower is like a once in a lifetime thing. Turns out he wakes up, no one's there. And then he finds people, and everyone who watched it is blind now. But to make things worse, they drop in these giant plants that have already been there. Like they already have some from another meteor shower, which is funny. And now they're saying that this either mutated them or it dropped in bigger ones, but they get really, really big and they start eating people. And it's easy now because they're blind. So that was kind of the gist of the story. Like Tom said, I liked the overall look of the monsters. I kind of got like a praying mantis spider type look in my mind, like they kind of have the fuzzies off of like a giant spider. And watching the first guy get killed in the museum or like the whatever it is, the garden that he's in, it kind of like sucks him in. I was like, that was pretty cool. The overall story, like Ricky said, is kind of slow. Um, and it could have been a 50-minute movie. I think it would have been perfect, especially back then. I assumed that all of this played on TV and it wasn't something you just picked up and brought home and watched. So 50 minutes would have been perfect runtime for TV back then. It would have been great for watching it now as well. But then again, you got to find a way to, kill the monsters. And that's kind of where the two people who were added in later, they figure out a way to get rid of these creatures, and it happens to be salt water. And it's kind of cheesy, but it's there and it's plentiful. And if you're on the coast, which I assume everyone find out would flee to, that's where I think all the rest of the movies would be, is somewhere around an ocean. It would be fun to watch one in, like, the Midwest, like where I'm at, Illinois. Like there is no salt water here, you're not getting away from these. But this movie is in color. At least my version was. I'm assuming that it probably was black and white at some point too. So I did enjoy that it was color. It wasn't vibrant color like it says. It was 1950s VHS, color for the time. Overall, though, the story was slow. I liked having two aspects of it though, where you get blinded and you have terrible creatures chasing after you. And then the way they multiplied too, like plant like, where you ever blow a dandelion and you watch it all fly away. That's kind of how they multiplied. And by the end of it, there's like thousands of these like herding around an electric fence like cattle trying to break through it. And that was really, really cool. And I enjoyed that. Wish we could have got more mob mentality though. Like, I don't think we've seen anyone actually get like devoured by a mob of these things. It would have been awesome, kind of like in Critters when that giant critter ball rolls over that guy and he turns into a skeleton. They did something like that. This movie would have been top notch for me, but it was good. I enjoyed it. It was a great classic VHS, and I personally I think you should buy it and watch it. Tom, was there anything good about the movie you like that wasn't mentioned or you want to touch on more?
Yeah, I'll touch on that mob mentality kind of thing that you said. The part where, as you said, they multiply and the people are stuck in a house and there's a electric fence around the place, and you get all of it just looks like Children of the Corn almost, because there's just crops all the way up to that fence, and these crops are just moving is the only difference. But towards the end of that scene, one of the I believe it was the main guy, and I say that because I go back and forth with trying to remember who was who, but the Shatner lookalike guy was in a vehicle and he was driving away with some sound, because apparently they focus on sound, right? So he was like pulling an ice cream truck kind of thing and trying to lure them somewhere. But as he's driving, you realize he's driving towards a bunch of them on the street, and then just hops out of the vehicle and like hopped onto a rock. Like it was a big rock. That shit would have hurt a lot. Like that stunt guy probably did not have a good day that day, because that wouldn't have been okay. What I wanted to see was that car careen into all of those crops. He was driving straight for them. Like there's no way he was not hitting them, and his car was full gassed and just going for it on that road. I don't understand what kept them from just watching a car, even if it was like a real cornfield, just drive a car through a cornfield and let him, jump out the side, and you could just kind of shoot it from real low so they look really tall. You know what I mean? it would have been cool. Or an explosion, even that would have been neat. Blow up some of them, take some with you while you're trying to get out of there. I feel like that was a missed opportunity, but I do like the way they look. They were fun to watch them try and walk around, and again with that little bong sound as they truffled through the woods and the fog and stuff like that. I do think the first kill was my favorite. Very early on in the movie, where, as Matt said, the botanist or whatever he was almost gets consumed into the plant. I was hoping that there would be more of that, and maybe even like a hybrid of a person mixed in the plant, and you would like see faces in it from other people that they've like absorbed or things like that. I thought that would be cool, a cool special effect that wouldn't take a lot of actual work, really. I don't think you just glue some plant stuff to someone's face and just shoot it up close and say that they're in there, that kind of thing. I thought that was would have been cool. Again, missed opportunity, I guess, but that's just me trying to think of cooler things to do or things I wanted to see. But otherwise, the movie was fine. And as Ricky said, I do agree. A lot of it was pretty slow, and there was stuff that I could definitely have gotten rid of. Some characters that they ran into that led to nothing realistically. But overall, the movie's fine. I'm not saying you shouldn't go watch the movie. That's for sure. People like the movie, obviously. Matt enjoyed it quite frequently, or quite a lot. So I'm not saying I didn't enjoy it. So watch the movie. But Ricky, do you have any plus or minuses you want to bring up before we kind of wrap it up? I don't, unless you guys have anything else to put in there.
Yeah, I got a couple things I can kind of ramble with for a minute, but just to throw a little disclaimer there, I didn't hate this movie. It was kind of boring, but it's not. I didn't love it. I didn't hate it. It's just kind of right in the middle for me. One thing I did like is right at the beginning, right from the get-go in the movie, the narration at the beginning that's kind of explaining how these plants work and all that stuff, kind of preparing you for what you're going to see. I thought that was pretty cool, about how he goes into the description of the Venus flytrap and just the plants that actually feed on living organisms. I thought that was a nice little intro to the movie. I did like how the plants were designed, as far as like how they opened up and all that stuff. That looked really good. The little for the time, I think they did a fairly good job on the plane crash explosion. It wasn't horrible, but I mean, remember, this is a 1963 movie, so they did well for what they had to work with the little plane crash. One thing I didn't understand about the movie is that little safe house that they go to in France, and the criminals just show up and throw a party, and like they're trying to rape these women. I was like, what? Where did this come from? Why is this part of the movie? They could have dealt without that. But yeah, that was weird. Other than that, there really wasn't much that just stood out that I really needed to talk about. It was just an average 1960s sci-fi horror movie. Oh, one thing I forgot about, the score. I enjoyed the score. That the 1950s over the top dramatic all brass. I loved it. I thought it was great. It fit the movie very well, and yeah, it did add a little bit to it, because I really enjoy those over the top brass section. Matt, before we get into rating anything, is there anything else you wanted to add to it?
I'm glad you brought up the plane. I like giggled a little bit, because at first, you see like they're flying the plane, and then it hits you. It's like, oh dang, they're all blind, and they have no idea where they're flying. They're just up there, just cruising around. I personally, if it was me, I would have landed it with the child. I would have had, a little kid in the plane who landed it, and it probably would have been cheesy and fun. But yeah, I kind of got a little kick out of that. I was like, man, this is messed up here that they decided they were going to put all blind pilots, all blind crew, and all blind people in a plane and just have mass panic. Uh, that was a nice little touch. I enjoyed that more than I probably ever thought I would. Um, I can't really think of too much stuff that I hated. Um, yeah, overall, like I said, I enjoyed the movie. It's not a perfect movie by any means, but it was easy to sit here and watch. It wasn't like I had to like pay like real close attention, like I'm watching a Christopher Nolan movie or something. It is what it is, and it was entertaining to me, and I like that. It could have been a little shorter, like Tom said. I think that they could have probably cut out most, if not all, of the extras that they put in it. I think that when you do that, it convolutes the story. So it would have overall been better. Uh, I don't really have any dislikes though. So no, Tom, you got anything to add?
Not necessarily. I'm glad you brought up the whole prisoners situation because I don't remember them ever explaining where, first of all, where those prisoners came from, why none of them were blind. Were they all in like a dungeon prison and everyone else went blind, but they were fine? How did they get out of prison? They all had like semi-automatic rifles and stuff on them. And they just wanted to dance with all these ladies in a house that they randomly came across. And then watching our main character get one of the rifles from an inmate was pretty fantastic because the inmate was trying to take a girl upstairs to do God knows what with her, and she knocks him away, and he falls down a total of 4 stairs, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and is dead. Like, gets to the bottom of those 4 stairs and does not move again. So
Okay.
our main character is like, all right, and takes that rifle, walks back into the room with all of the dancing prisoners and their captured lady folk, walks over to the main woman that owns the house that he knows, and kind of pushes a guy out of the way who is dancing with her, and grabs her and starts dancing with her and like hides his face. Just like, nope, no, I'm a prisoner too. I have a gun just like you. But I'm not in prison clothes like you are, but you don't have to think about that too hard, right? I'm one of you guys. And because there's no other men in this house, so I've got to be a prisoner. That made me laugh. I was like, hey man, if you can pull that off, that's great. But I just don't think that's how logic works. But he got her out of there, and then they could go and romp off and finish the rest of the movie. But yeah, there was no explanation there why that happened. It was very interesting and very random. But yeah, so I'm gonna let's rate this movie. Screw it.
Yeah.
We're at that point. So who wants to go first? I don't even know where we start anymore at this point. I act like we put these out week after week or week after month or whatever it is, and act like we're shooting them all at the same time. But lives are weird and things happen. So Matt, let's start with you. Let's go from the top down.
All right. It's out of 4, right? It's been a while.
5.
It's out of
It's out
5.
of 5. I thought it was 4 for a really long time, and Ricky last episode just rated a movie 4.5.
Oh,
So we've just
okay.
never got anything higher than a 4 until last episode. So
All right.
yeah, out of 5.
I'm gonna go 3.5. It was enjoyable to me. So
Okay.
not perfect, like I said. 3.5.
Fair enough. Ricky, what about you?
Let's see. Out of all the from that era that we've watched, this definitely wasn't my favorite. So, as I said, I didn't hate it. I didn't love it, but I can't rank it as high as some of the others from this era. But I'm gonna give it a 2. Wasn't terrible. There were some things that I did like about it. It was hard for me to stay focused, which is why I can't really put it in that 2.53 area. So I'm gonna give it a 2.
Fair enough. I do have to say that I said to my girlfriend that I was sitting next to watching this movie that it was not keeping my attention. So I totally get that. And, there was specific parts that wouldn't. Others definitely would. You know, I liked when the monsters were on screen, and we just didn't get a ton of that. I know a lot of older movies end up showing you that monster in the last 10 minutes, and that's the most exciting part of the entire movie. This one actually peppered him in a little bit more throughout the movie than that. I know we had that, God, what was that rodent movie we watched?
Killer Shrews.
Yes, Killer Shrews. You saw some shrews throughout that movie as well. It was kind of peppered in, but again, it was towards the end where you got the most of them. But if I have to put this into a rating, I would probably put it at a 2.5. And again, it's only sitting at a 2.5 because it didn't continuously keep me involved or keep me, paying attention. I did, obviously, because otherwise I wouldn't be able to sit here and talk about the movie. I watched the whole damn thing, but it was a struggle at certain points to not pick up my phone and look at other things. So I would give it a 2.5. In saying that, I'm going to pick up my phone and go to our sweet little episode wheel that I have right here and see what we're going to watch next week. If you guys are ready for that. We have 3 movies left on Ricky's list and 1 movie left on Matt's and 0 on my list. We have watched all of my movies this season already. So let's see what we got. Look at it go, spinning around. Oh, we are watching Dark Wolf.
I can't wait.
That is a Ricky movie if I have ever heard it.
Hope this is easy to find.
I believe it's on YouTube. I actually found this while Tom and I were in Austin, Texas last year at a little record shop called End of an Ear. And if you're ever in Austin, go check this little shop out. It's got some really cool stuff in there. A lot of good records. It's got a little VHS section. So if you're in Austin, Texas, go check out End of an Ear.
Heck yeah.
I'm going to go ahead and read the back of this because it's a very short little description. Just give you all a taste of what the next episode is. It's got a little tagline at the top. Under a full moon, true terror begins. A new breed of horror roams the streets of Los Angeles. It's the Dark Wolf, a vicious werewolf with a thirst for blood and a lust for Josie, a sexy, unsuspecting woman with a mysterious power she is only beginning to understand. Once the Dark Wolf catches Josie's scent, nothing can stop his insatiable hunger to mate with her, and he'll kill anyone who gets in his way. So I got a feeling this movie's gonna be pretty rapey. I don't like the sound of that at all. But
isn't Kane Hodder in this movie or somebody like that?
Hey, the only thing I can see that's redeeming about this movie from the get-go is Kane Hodder's name in the credits. I'm pretty sure he's probably going to have a very, very small cameo role because he's at the very back of the credit list. But yeah, this when did this come out? 2002, and is 94 minutes long. Okay. So pretty sure based on 2002, there's another tagline. Half man, half beast, pure evil. This movie is going to be very sexual exploitation. A lot of rapey scenes when he says nothing can stop his insatiable hunger to mate with her. That's a pretty creepy way to describe this Dark Wolf fella.
And bad CGI, I would assume, in an early 2000s werewolf movie.
Horrible. I will say it's going to be better than Lost Voyage CGI. But yes, this is going to be a terrible movie, and it's going to be a good time to watch it, though.
Awesome. So do yourself a favor and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when we actually watch that movie and post our review about it, because I'm sure we're going to have a lot to talk about when it comes to Dark Wolf with Kane Hodder. So thank you guys for sticking around. If you haven't already done so, like this video because it does help things and helps us get viewed by others. Subscriptions are very, very great again as well, because you miss out on anything. You don't want to do that. So thank you again. I can't say it enough. We appreciate you a ton, and we can't wait to talk about more awful movies with you guys. We will see you next time.